Hello and welcome. Today I'm going to show you how you can start to work with timeline in Adobe Animate CC 2019. I already created a tutorial about the basics of Adobe Animate and I am going to provide a link in the description. And in this video we are going to be working primarily with the timeline. So the first thing that I need to do is I need to create a project. And I am going to choose, for example, 600 by 600. And I'm going to choose HTML5 canvas and I will just hit create. Okay. So right now what you can do is go to the file and save your project somewhere. But you do not need to because we are not going to be doing anything special. I am going to just explain. So when you open your Adobe Animate, you are going to have a workspace like this, and the timeline is at the bottom. There is some view, some scene at the top, and on the right side there are some tools and some properties. You can go and change this by going to Window, going to Workspaces and choose some other workspace if you want. But I am going to keep this on the Essentials. Fine. So Adobe Animate is somehow a little bit special with the timeline. Because, for example, After Effects or Premiere Pro, they have different kind of timeline. And in Adobe Animate, you have to build your timeline from the scratch. So right now you can see that we have from frame 1 to frame 150 and this timeline is so far empty. There is nothing in there. And we have a layer 1 and this layer 1 is also empty, and you can see that it is empty because there is this little frame on the frame 1 and it has like empty dot. When this layer is going to contain some graphic, there is going to be a black dot, and you will see this in the second. So what I am going to do is I am going to get my shape tool. I am going to choose some color. I can go with red, for example, and I want to get rid of the stroke, okay, to make it easier. So I'm going to get rid of the stroke, and I'm going to create something like so, for example. Okay, right now you can see that we have this layer 1 and that we have a frame, or I would say keyframe, and we know that because there is this dot. I'm going to rename the layer, so I will just double click and I will call this, for example, right shape. Fine. Right now we have only this one keyframe, and if I would go and open this in the browser, you can hit Ctrl Enter, which is for the testing, and it should open your file in the browser. It is going to be like this, okay? Just shape and nothing is going to happen. I'm going to close this. But what you can do is go to the next frame and create a keyframe. And for example, move your graphic somewhere else. So for example, I will go to the second frame, I will right click, and there is a bunch of options, so this can be a little bit confusing, but I will try to explain at least some of these things in here. But right now what we are going to do is we are going to insert keyframe. There are options to insert frame and so on, but we want to insert keyframe. So I will click on this one, and right now what I can do is I can move this down. And if you hold shift, it is going to stay on the same position like this. So I will go and I will move it somewhere here, for example. So right now I have my first keyframe, which is on the top, and second keyframe, which is in here. And if I right now hit Ctrl Enter, it is going to be, it's not very good, but you can see that there is this animation. Okay? But what I can do is I will go to the next frame. Again, I will right click. I will choose Insert Keyframe. And I will move this down a little more. And I can continue like so. Insert Keyframe and move it a little bit. And I can create an animation which is going down and then up. Okay, so one of the way is to right click and to insert keyframe. But it is not very good way to always right click and do it like this, because there is a shortcut. Very useful shortcut, and this shortcut is F6. So if I click F6, right now I am on my keyframe in here, and I will click F6. It is going to create a new keyframe, and I can move this. F6, I can move this. Right now I am not bothering with the shift, so I am just moving it like so. And for example, right now we have created an animation like so. And I'm going to preview this, and we are going to have something like this. Not pretty cool, but at least you can see what you can do. Fine. Right now what I am going to do is I am going to show you how you can get rid of these keyframes, or how you can get rid of the frames. So for example, imagine that you have created animation like this, but you don't like it, and you want to remove every keyframe and leave only the first one. What you can do is highlight everything like so, then right click, and again we have many options in here, and it can be confusing, but I want to remove frames. There is options to clear keyframe, clear frames, and so on, but we want to remove frames. So I will click this one, and this is going to delete all of the frames, or all of the keyframes. And again there is a shortcut, so I will go back a couple times, and the shortcut is Shift F5. So if I click Shift F5, it is going to delete these keyframes. So far we had two shortcuts. One is F6, and F6 is going to give you a new keyframe, and then we have Shift F5, and that is going to get rid of the keyframes, all of the frames. Okay, cool. Right now what I am going to do is I am going to show you the difference between creating keyframe and creating frame. And for this one I will have to create new shape. So I will move this to the left a little bit. I am going to create new layer. I am going to call this layer to be blue shape. And right now I am going to choose a blue color, and I am going to create a shape like so. Okay. And right now what I want to do is, for example, I will go to my frame 20, and I will hit F6. And this is going to give me a new keyframe on the red shape, and I can move it down a little bit. Okay. And later on I will show you how you can create an animation in between, because right now when we created new keyframe, what is going to happen is the red shape is going to stay from frame 1 to frame 19 on the same place, and then when it hits new keyframe, it will move there. Okay. And you can see that my blue shape right now is going to disappear as soon as we hit the second frame, because it is not located in there. It is only on the first frame. And what I could do is also go to the frame 20, hit F6, and right now I have my blue shape and red shape 20 frames long. Okay. And I will go back. And if I go, for example, on frame 10 and I will hit F6, my blue shape is going to stay for 10 frames, then it is going to disappear, and my red shape is going to stay. And if I hit Ctrl Enter, it is going to look like this. Okay. But what I wanted to show you is the difference between keyframe and frame. So I will remove these frames on the blue shape. So again, as I showed you, I am going to highlight this, and I am going to use the shortcut Shift F5 or remove frames, and they are removed. And now I will go and I will hit F5. Or you can right click, and before we hit insert keyframe, now we can go insert frame. And the difference is that my blue shape has only keyframe on the frame 1, and on the frame 20 it has only frame. And it means that right now I can't move it on this position, and if I am on the frame 20 and I will try to move this, guess what is going to happen? It is going to move everything. It is going to move this keyframe because there is no other keyframe. And the frame 20 has a keyframe, which means that it is going to, you can change the position, but you do not need to. What you can do is, again, I'm going to get rid of them by Shift F5. And what I can do is click F6, and I can keep this on the same position as it is. But the difference is that you use this insert frame when you know that you do not want any movement with your graphic. And you use F6 when you know that you want to move it somewhere, somehow. Okay? And as I said, the new keyframe, the shortcut is F6, and new frame shortcut is F5. Okay? So right now we have 3 shortcuts. We have F6 for the new keyframe, we have F5 for the new frame, and we have Shift F5 for removing frames. Okay? Do you know what is going to happen if, for example, I will go on the frame 15 and I will hit Shift F5? It is going to get rid of that frame, but it will just move the timeline one frame back. So now I am on the frame 15, it doesn't matter, I can be anywhere. And if I hit Shift F5 and look in here, Shift F5, it is going to do something like this. Okay? If I am going to highlight maybe, I don't know, 15 frames, and I'm going to hit Shift F5, it is going to get rid of all of them. Okay? Like so. But visually it can see like it is removing the keyframes from the end, but it's like doesn't matter because they are all of the same. So Shift F5, and it didn't like delete the highlighted one, but it get rid of the same portions of the frames from here. Right now, imagine that my red shape is going to, on the frame 20, I'm going to move it in here, somewhere, or somewhere here. And then on the last keyframe, I'm going to move it down. So right now it is going to go from frame 1 to the frame 20 to the right side, and then to the bottom. And then don't worry, I am definitely going to show you how you can create an animation in between these keyframes. But what I want to show you right now is how you can get rid of the keyframe. Because if I go on my keyframe, on this keyframe, and I want to delete this keyframe, and I want to have just 2 keyframes from the top to the bottom, if I hit Shift F5, it is not going to delete this keyframe, it is just going to make my animation shorter, like so. But if I click Shift F6, it is going to get rid of the keyframe. So Shift F6 is going to get rid of the keyframe, and if I go back, you can also go with right click and clear keyframe. I always use the shortcut, but if you hit clear keyframe, you are going to get rid of that keyframe. So one more time, I like these recapitulations. F5 is going to give you a new frame, F6 is going to give you a new keyframe, Shift F5 is going to get rid of the frames, and Shift F6 is going to get rid of the keyframe. And you can insert frame is F5, insert keyframe is F6, remove frames is Shift F5, and right now there is not options because we are not on the keyframe, but clear keyframe is Shift F6. So now what I am going to do is I am going to delete the blue shape. I am going to get rid of all of these frames, and I am going to show you how you can create an animations in between these keyframes. But in order to create this kind of animations, we will have to convert our shapes to the symbol. And I will later on show you what is going to happen if you don't make it. Okay, so right now I have my shape and I have options to go to the properties like this. I explained this in my basics of Adobe Animate, so if you don't understand, you can watch it. But I will go to the modify and I will hit convert to symbol. Or again, there is a shortcut, but not important for this video. So convert to symbol, and I can name this symbol. I do not have to. I can keep this to be symbol 1 and make sure that this is movie clip. We don't want button and we don't want graphic. So make sure it is movie clip and hit OK. And right now, this is a movie clip, and you can see that we have lost our options to change the colors. If you want that, you can double click, it will get you in there, but we do not want to do it right now. So I will go back to my scene. And what I can do is go to frame 45, for example. I will hit F6. I will move this down. I'm going to hold Shift to stay on the same position. And right now we have again one keyframe on the frame 1. It is going to stay on the same place. And when we hit frame 45, the new keyframe, it is going to move down. What I can do is anywhere in between, right click and choose create classic tween. And this is going to create an animation which is going to equally distribute the keyframes in between. Okay? And for example, right now I am going to hit the test, so Control Enter, and you can see that we have an animation like this, and by default this is going to be looping forever. I will close this, and what I can do is, for example, go on the frame 20 or somewhere in the middle, and I will create new keyframe. So I will click F6, and right now I am going to move this on the left side like so. And right now what is going to happen is my animation is going to go like this, then like this. Now I can create one more keyframe, so I will go somewhere here, frame 65, I will hit F6, I will move it here, and I will create classic tween. Okay, and right now what I want to show you is how we can get to the same position as on the first keyframe. Because what I would like to create is is an animation which is going to stop on the same place where it started, so that it is going to be looping forever without any jump. Because right now we have something like this, and I want to end my animation exactly on the same place as this one. And one way could be like hit F6 and try to put it on the same place, but it's not a really good idea, so I will go back. And if you try to go on your keyframe and copy it by hitting Ctrl C and then hitting Ctrl V, something strange is going to happen. It is going to duplicate your shape, not the keyframe. So I will go back, and I don't want to do it like this. And there are actually 3 ways how you can do this. So one of them is not hit Ctrl C, but Ctrl Alt C, and then go to the frame that you want and hit Ctrl Alt V. And it is going to put a keyframe on the same place because we have copied the keyframe. And what I can do is create classic tween. I will hit Ctrl Enter, and right now the animation is going to be looping like this. Okay? I'm going to get rid of these keyframes. So I will highlight them. I will hit Shift F5, or I can right click and choose remove frames, and we have removed the frames. So that was the one option how you can copy the keyframe. The second option how you can copy the keyframe is right click and choose copy frames. Go to the frame that you want and hit paste frames. And it is going to do the same thing, and magically it created a classic twin. Sometimes it do stuff like this, but we have a keyframe on the same place. Okay, again I will go back a couple of times, and I'm going to show you the last way how you can copy your keyframes. And this method is one that I use most of the time because it is the shortest one for me. And all you need to do is hold Alt. And if you are on the Mac, I don't know what kind of shortcut that you need to do. I am on the Windows my whole life. So, but you can hold Alt, and while you are holding Alt, just move your keyframe, and it is going to duplicate your keyframe and then put it anywhere that you want. Okay? And you can do this with any keyframe. So for example, I can get this keyframe from the frame 45 and I can move it like so. And the animation is going to continue like this. Okay? And then again, I can get the animation from the top like so and move it in here. Okay? And right now, if I hit Ctrl Enter, we are going to have something a little bit strange like this. Okay, cool. So the next thing that I would like to show you is imagine that I'm going to get rid of these last motions. So all we have is the animation which is going around like so. And imagine that right now I would like to create this animation faster, because it was really slow. It's like it's really boring because it takes so much time and so on. But right now, if I want to make this faster, what I can do, and this is not a really good way, is to move this keyframe in here. The next keyframe I can move in here. The next one I can move here, and the last one in here. And then I would get rid of this, hit Shift F5, and I will play this. And yeah, this is faster, but this method is not really good. So I will hit Ctrl Z a couple of times, like so. And what you can do is highlight all of the keyframes, just click on the layer, and then without any shortcut, you are going to see these arrows when you go to the last keyframe, and all you need to do is make this shorter or longer. Okay? So this feature is kind of new to Adobe Animate. It wasn't, at least I think, in maybe 2017 version, and it was like really bad. So I'm really glad that Adobe created something like this, because I really missed something like this in Adobe Animate, and right now we have this, so it's pretty cool. Okay, so yeah, like this. One more thing that I want to show you is that the timeline in Adobe Animate, it took me some time to really understand it, and I believe that I can understand it really well, but sometimes it behaves somehow funny. And for example, right now, if I go and hit F5, it is going to, instead of empty frames, create the frames with dots like this. But it's like it has created the empty frame, but it can look like this. Okay, so don't worry if something like this is going to happen. These are just empty frames. And the next thing that I want to show you, I will go back, is how you can get rid of these classic twins. Okay, for any reason, if you decide that you want this frame to just jump to this frame, what you can do is right click and choose remove classic twin. Okay? And I didn't show you the shortcut for creating classic twins, and the reason I didn't show you is because there is no shortcut for creating classic twins. At least I do not know about that Adobe would create some shortcut, but this is not for this video. There is options in Adobe Animate to create your custom shortcuts. And maybe I will show you this in the later videos, but there wasn't shortcut on creating classic twins. Okay, so I'm going to get rid of them, Shift F5, and actually I'm going to get rid of the whole red shape. So I will hit delete, and I'm going to just quickly show you what is going to happen if you try to create animations like this and you don't convert your shape to the symbol. So I will create a shape like so, and I can call this just blue, and I will go to maybe frame 40. I will hit F6. I'm going to move this down, and right now I'm going to click anywhere in between, and I'm going to choose create classic twin, and it will work, but not in a good way. So I will hit create classic twin, and I'm going to have this warning that you must convert frame content to a symbol in order to twin, and so on. And I can hit OK, and right now this has created a symbol for me, and it had created this animation. But the problem is that if I click on this shape, it is graphic. And even though I can change it in here from graphic to movie clip, it is still going to behave as a graphic. And I can't explain you why this is happening, but it is. And that's why this is not a really good way how you can create your animations. Okay, so one way how I can really quickly show you that I am not lying to you is if I create a movie clip or graphic and I will double click, it is going to get me inside like so. But if I create a button, so for example, I am going on new layer, I am going to create some kind of button with some kind of text like this. So this is going to be button, and I am going to rename the layer to be button, and I am going to highlight it like so to get my shape and my text. I will click F8 and I will choose the button, and I will hit OK. And if you have buttons, but I am not going to explain buttons in this video, and you double click on the buttons, we are going to have different properties. We are going to have something like up, over, down, and hit, and so on. But if we click on the movie clip, we don't have these options. But if I go and click on my button, and I will change it from button to movie clip, and right now it is movie clip, and I will double click, it is still going to have these properties of the button. And the only reason why I am showing this to you is that even though Animate is going to create a movie clip, is going to create a symbol for you, it is going to create a graphic symbol for you, and if you change it to movie clip, it is still going to behave as a graphic, and movie clips are just better than the graphics. Okay, so hopefully you understand what I am saying. Cool, and now I'm going to delete all of them, and very quickly I'm going to show you a few more things, but I will try to maybe create a separate video on these topics because they are like longer topics. But at least quickly I wanted to show you that if you, for example, create a shape like this, And by the way, if you want to test and you want a different background, you can go to the stage and you can choose the color, for example, like this. And I will change this to something like this. Okay, just if you hit Ctrl Enter right now, you have like, you can see your canvas. Okay, but what I want to do right now is convert this shape to the symbol. So I will hit F8. So it is the same as going to modify, convert to symbol. I want this to be movie clip, and be careful because when I used last time button, it is going to remember that I used button, and the next time I'm going to create a symbol, it is going to suggest me a button. So make sure that you make this to be a movie clip and hit OK. And right now, for example, what I'm going to do is I am going to create an animation. I will go to frame 45. I will hit F6. I'm going to move this on the right side, and I'm going to create classic twin. And then what I am going to do is I am going to copy my first keyframe with Alt. I'm going to position it on the frame 90, and I'm going to create classic twin. And now we have an animation which is going to right and then to left. And what I can do is I can create bunch of keyframes which I'm going to move a little bit up, little bit down, little bit up, little bit down, little bit up, something like this. So we have an animation like so. Okay, and I will hit Ctrl Enter, and we have something like this. Okay, but right now, the thing is that imagine that I would like to move this animation, to keep this animation to be the same as it is, but move it to the top, like so. And it's kind of tricky how to create something like this. Because, for example, if I highlight all of the keyframes, and I will try to move this to the top, I have moved only first keyframe, and others are on the same place. Okay, so it's like there is not good way how you can do this, because you can't move every single keyframe. Okay, I will go back. So one of the options that you can do is double click inside your movie clip, and now you can move your movie clip up, or your shape up, and now it has moved for every single keyframe to up. Okay, but little bit problem with this right now is that can you see this little empty dot in here? It is like the pivot point, or like the middle of the shape, and if I would try to rotate my shape right now, it would go around that. Okay, and if I go back to the position where we was, it was in the middle, and if I want to rotate it, it's like so. So by double clicking and moving this up, it can screw your animation a little bit because of this. Okay, so this is also not the best way. So again, I will go back a couple of times, and what you can do is in here you have an option to edit multiple frames. So I will click this, and this is going to give me an option to choose which frames that I want. So I want this from the end to the beginning, or from the beginning to the end. So highlight all of the keyframes and frames that you have, then click on the layer 1, and you can see right now all of the keyframes, and you can right now move this to the top. Okay, and then I will unclick this, so I will click one more time. It is going to disable it, and now we have an animation which is on the top, but if I click, you can see that it has this pivot point still in the middle. Okay, so one more time, the process is click in here. Sometimes it is going to open like this, like really small. Sometimes it is going to open like big. But don't worry, put it from the beginning to the end, or you can skip some keyframes. You do not need to get all of them. But if you want to get all of them, do it like this. Then click on the layer 1 to highlight it, move it where you want, and you have something like this. Okay? So I believe that I showed you enough in this tutorial about the timeline, and there are still many things about the timeline. For example, there is this option to have a nested timeline, and it works like this. So for example, again, I am going to get a shape, and I can create a shape. I am going to hit F8 for the symbol. I am going to create new keyframe, and I am going to move this down, and I am going to create a classic twin. And right now we have an animation from the top to the bottom. And what I can do is I can double click on the shape, and this is going to get me to the shape. And again, I can click F8. It is going to convert this to the symbol, and I have new timeline. I have a timeline in here where is animation, and I can go in here and, for example, make this go to the frame 10 and move this to the left, go to the frame 20, move this to the right, go to the frame 30, move this to the left, 40 to the right, 50 to the left, then highlight everything and create classic twin like so. And now we have an animation which is like this. And even though on the main timeline we see only the movement from the top to the bottom, we have created also animation inside. And if I go and test this, it is going to have this movement like so. Okay? But these nested timelines, it is like, again, a really comprehensive topic, and I am not going to explain you in this video that it is like that. Maybe only thing that I can tell you is that if you are going to create a nested timeline, it can be good to create as much frames on this nested as it is on the main one. Because if you want this to loop every time the same, because right now if I hit Ctrl Enter, it is going to have the same animation all of the time. Okay? But if, for example, I'm going to create one more keyframe, and I'm going to, this was from left to the right, so this is going to go to the from left to right like so. So we have like this and this, and if I hit Ctrl Enter, after some time this animation is going to look different and even more different. Every loop it is going to little bit change where it ends, and the reason is that this animation is longer than the main one, and the main one is looping every 50 frames. Is looping from top to the bottom, and this is looping from frame 1 to frame 63 or 62. So as I said, I'm not going to explain these nested timelines in this video, but I just want you to know that there is something like this. And yeah, this is it. Hopefully you learned a lot. If you have any questions, put them in the comments. And I would really like to create more videos, but it's like it depends on how many people are going to watch this and so on. So I'm going to appreciate every single like, every single comment, and if you are interested in more videos like this, hit the subscribe, hit the bell button, and yeah, I will see you in the next video. So thank you very much for watching. Hopefully it made sense, and yeah, this is it. Goodbye.